Cortez receives his helmet, along with the warning not to come. One of the other tribes is more emphatic. We are going to kill these who are called gods and offer them up for sacrifice. Cortez gathers his men to pray for good fortune and strength against an enemy that outnumbers them more than 1,000 to 1. Against such overwhelming odds, it seems foolhardy for Cortez to continue his advance. But his ambition propels him forward, and the lure of wealth and power keeps his troops behind him.
One of the most repulsive dimensions which the Aztecs felt about the Spanish invasion of their country was the Spanish greed for gold. The Aztecs said of the Spaniards, they're like dogs seeking gold. Gold is their sickness.
The lure he holds out to the Indians of Mexico is freedom from Aztec domination. He will use every tactic at his disposal, every weapon in his arsenal, and every person in his path, in his determination to become master of the New World.
People have been saying for a long time that Cortez didn't tell it right. He overpraises Mexico as to its great extent and population and wealth. Not that it wasn't impressive, but he doesn't really care about that so much as he wants to impress the emperor back home that what a service he has done in giving him such a huge principality. He also over-evaluates the religious component and the patriotic component in what he's doing. They may have been very real too, but that wasn't really the reason that he did what he did. But in his letters back home, it appears that his whole motivation is Christianity and service to the emperor. When actually his motivation is that he be confirmed as governor.
Even after consulting with his gods, Montezuma can think of nothing to avoid the impending disaster. Cortez is invulnerable in battle and immune to magic spells. He certainly must be a god. It was ages ago that Quetzalcoatl was driven out of the land by a rival deity, and now with his return, there will be a clash between the two powers that will do incalculable damage.
As the Spaniards were approaching the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, they expected to see something magnificent and great, because they had heard about Moctezuma's great city, the great temple of Tenochtitlan, and the mighty power of the Aztec nobility. When they entered the city, what they saw was even much more magnificent.
Bernal Diaz describes the Spaniards' approach to the capital city. When we saw the town with buildings rising from the water, all made of stone, it seemed like an enchanted vision. Some of our soldiers asked whether it was not all a dream. Montezuma himself greets them as they enter the city center with these words: "O Lord, with what trouble have you journeyed to reach us? Have arrived in this land, your own city of Mexico, to sit on your throne, which I have been guarding for you this while. I have been watching for you, for my ancestors told that you would return. Welcome to this land. Rest a while. Rest in your palace."
I believe that Cortez, in fact, was taking an enormous risk in going into Tenochtitlan. But I'm not sure that the Spaniards realized that they were. They had a long history behind them of entering into the presence of the cacique, or chieftain, or king, seizing him in the course of some friendly parley and getting away with it. They also had an equally long history of winning battles. So I'm not sure that they fully realized the risk to themselves that they were taking.
Montezuma has actually moved out of his palace to make room for Cortez. It is a time of great anxiety, and Montezuma feels it is more necessary than ever to continue the sacrifices. The Lord of the Dead needs victims. From their quarters, Cortez and his men can see the grisly spectacle of the sacrificial victims being thrown down the steps of the pyramids. Finally, Cortez can endure it no more.
When Cortez and his troops first arrived in the city, Moctezuma took them to the great temple. And standing on top of the great temple, Cortez is, according to Bernal Diaz del Castillo, turns to his own priest and says to the priest, perhaps this is a good time to ask Moctezuma to remove his own sacred idol so that we can put a cross here. Moctezuma, like many of the other priests and chieftains and leaders in Mexico, were repulsed by this possibility.
The presence of the Spaniards is causing conflict among the Aztec leaders. Rumors of uprising are heard throughout Tenochtitlan. In a desperate attempt to avert disaster, Cortez takes Montezuma prisoner. This is a bold maneuver while in the heart of the Aztec Empire. And to further assert his power, he displays the bound king to his people. Spaniards now feel free to put up their crosses and altars and demand that the sacrifices stop immediately.
There were many uprisings of the same kind as that led to Montezuma's death all over the Spanish Indies. It was a quite predictable process. First you seized the cacique or chieftain, and through him you ran his kingdom. But the people began not to like it, and so invariably you get secondary rebellions after the initial conquest.
As the uprising spreads, Cortez sends Montezuma out to persuade his people to stop the fighting. But the situation is out of control. Suddenly, stones rain down on Montezuma. He is mortally wounded and will die 3 days later. Though the fighting goes on for some time, the death of Montezuma marks the end of the Aztec Empire. The most powerful nation in the Western Hemisphere has come to an abrupt and tragic end, defeated by a force smaller than Montezuma's palace guard. The legend of Quetzalcoatl is curiously fulfilled, and who is to say that the same omnipotent hand that created the legend did not also push Cortez to the shores of Mexico on that April day in 1519?
So many questions remain about the conquest. What if there had been a different king at the time, one not so superstitious as Montezuma? What if Cortez had not landed in 1519? Would history have been different? Perhaps not. Perhaps it was as Cortez believed, and no matter what the odds, it was his destiny to be conqueror of Mexico.
Lost civilizations, extraterrestrials, myths and monsters, missing persons, magic and witchcraft, unexplained phenomena. In search of cameras are traveling the world, seeking out these great mysteries. This program was the result of the work of scientists, researchers, and a group of highly skilled technicians.